arms towards the sun, you feel the warmth of the rays, and then you know you're alive.
Welcome to the Bassline, everyone. Albert Benavides, codename Welcome the Eagle, is the creator of VAERSaware.com. He is if not the, leading auditor of VAERS, the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System. From tracking down individual cases to analysis of the overarching data, Albert's work is critically important in these times of mass vaccine injury. It is with extremely high expectations that I welcome to the Bassline the steadfast and diligent Albert Benavides. Good evening, my brother. How are you on this summer night?
Jeremiah, thank you so much for having me, my man. I'm great. It's such an honor to be here, and I'm ready to rock and roll.
Well, thank you so much for being here. I'm so glad to have met you recently. You're a Twitter legend in your own right. You know a lot of excellent folks, some of whom have been guests on this program, and I'm super excited for this conversation. Let me just say, first of all, to our listening audience, this is once again a pre-recorded show. Progressive Radio Network, as I've mentioned, is rebuilding their studio, and we should be back to live programming right out of the PRN studio shortly. Hopefully next episode, I can't promise, but hopefully, fingers crossed, next episode will be a live show. But in the meantime, you know, Zoom will have to do, and it's all good because we have these incredible guests one week after another. The main thing we're missing out on, frankly, are your live calls, which I always enjoy. So hopefully we'll get back to some live listener phone calls. But in the meantime, we do have the means to conduct this interview, which is outstanding. And I want to ask everyone, please check out my latest Substack article. It's called Radio Silence, and it covers things that are very relevant to what we're going to discuss here tonight, or, you know, actually this afternoon for you guys. By the time this airs on Friday, this is actually Monday evening. So I'm being preemptive here and jumping on board with my man, Albert Benavides. So we recently had Tanya Kulane as a guest on this show, T-Bird. She's a legend in the medical freedom and, unfortunately, the vaccine injured community. Please check out my interview with T-Bird, Tanya Kulane, in the archives. It's very gut-wrenching, frankly, to hear what some of these folks are going through. I mean, people whose health has just been ravaged by this injection, by this thing that was, you know, we were told it was safe and effective, and then it turns out it was the opposite of safe and effective for many, many people, and we're still trying to gauge the extent of the harm that's been inflicted on the global public, and right here in the US, first of all. So tell us what you did in working with Tanya Kulane, who's our mutual friend, T-Bird, the legendary T-Bird. You helped her track down some of the data that she was unable to even track down as the person being referenced in the data in the system. She didn't know how to find her own info. Is that correct? Could you tell us about how you work with T-Bird as an intro to the type of work that you do?
Yeah, thanks. And that T-Bird is a really good common example of people that actually have the wherewithal to even submit a report, for one, which is rare in of itself. But
Right.
One of the things that the VAERS system doesn't tell you, it's embedded deep in the fine print, is that after you submit the report, you instantly get a temporary ID number. It's flashed on your screen. And if you chose to leave your optional email, they will automatically send you the temporary ID number. And that is supposed to be used for in the 4 to 6 weeks that it takes them to adjudicate your claim, so to speak, make sure it's not a duplicate or a fake or a false report. In that adjudication process, they will make that determination, finalize your report, and then issue a permanent finalized ID number. And that's the ID number that everybody sees in the published forward facing VAERS report. But
Right.
the problem is, just like Tanya, is that they don't automatically tell you what your finalized ID number is in a couple weeks or a few weeks or however long it takes for them to process your claim. And that's why I call it a claim until it actually is adjudicated and becomes a report. So for this reason, she didn't know. She knew that she submitted a report, but she had no way of knowing what her report was. She hadn't seen it. And so, I started there just like a bloodhound, got her details, she forwarded me her details. And I went in the system and I basically dug her up, female, this age, vax date on this day, looking for these symptoms. And, so I found her real quick. Because she gave me a lot of details. But here's the thing: was with Tanya, we actually found her first original report that she was told was submitted, but when she tried to follow up with that original report, they couldn't tell her, oh, what's the ID number, or here it is, or they couldn't close the loop on that. So she was always suspicious. She's like, I don't think they submitted. And that's why Tanya from Canada logged into the American VAERS system, which going on the internet is not hard to do. But I was not I just thought it would get like in the adjudication process not get published because it was a foreign report from outside of the United States. However, it was Pfizer, so that is legit. It's totally legit what she did. It's just that I hadn't seen them before, and I noticed something that on her report that I saw. I go, oh my God, this is why I see foreign reports coming in, and sometimes they don't give us the two-digit country code and the manufacturer timestamp in a certain field called the split type field. So that's when I realized, oh my gosh, there's only a handful of reports like this in the database, but at least it just gave me confirmation, just being the VAERS expert that I claim I am, that I go, oh, these do exist. So there are a couple dozen people around the world that have literally got into the VAERS system from outside the country and filed a report. I just thought it would be tougher for most people because, they ask you, like, what's your telephone number? What's your address? What hospital did you land at? What's that hospital's address? So addresses all around the world, they're not structured like our American addresses or even area codes and stuff, zip codes and stuff like that. So right away you're gonna have issues. You're like, how do I type in this address in Italy? It's formatted different. So that's where I thought they'd have problems. Although that type of information, you can bypass it. Like if you don't know the address of the hospital or your own home address, you don't want to give it, you don't have to. You could just skip it and hit next. So anyways, I mean that was real good, solid information for me. It just helped me to realize other foreign reports just like hers that were submitted from outside the country. So it's really helpful. Now, I did say that we found her first report. So technically right now today, she's got 2 reports in there. And that is even not uncommon. But what happens is that eventually when VAERS finds it, they will delete it. one of the reports, and they use that first in, first out kind of rule, whichever report has the earliest timestamp. So, the other report that we found, it was filed, a year ago, basically, because her injury started, a long time ago, over a year ago, I think 2 years ago. So this report that she submitted will probably eventually be deleted once they figure out that, oh, it's a duplicate to an already existing published report. But at least we were able to find her report. And this is the thing, though, Jeremiah, in between the lines, and this is a part of the audit that I did with Brianne Dressen of React 19. Now it's almost a couple years old, but we did the same thing with her VAERS, with her React 19 people, about 125 people. I did the same thing. Double checked everybody's IDs because Brianna was telling me, she's like, hey, my people are saying they're going into this database and somebody else's report is in their VAERS ID number. What? That's strange. Well, these people were using their temporary ID because it's exactly the same mnemonic. It's not a completely different ID. It's just a lot smaller, all numerics. So they had this temporary ID and it said like 435,615, whatever the number was. They would plug that one into VAERS and then pull up somebody that got like a flu jab back in 2005.
Right.
That's what she meant, that like somebody else was in their report ID number. And I explained it to her. I said, no, I go, you would have had to use that temporary ID number to go to info@cdc.gov and say, I would like my VAERS, my finalized ID number when it becomes published. Here's my temporary ID to authenticate myself that I am the submitter. So it's like an authentication tool for the VAERS people, so that, HIPAA and all that privacy stuff, so that they know that they can tell you what your ID number is. So as it turns out, when we did this audit with Brianne Dressen, not to stray away from T-Bird's situation, but it's the exact same thing.
Right. Go ahead.
These people, we realized, had submitted reports and never been published. So there was, like a dozen of those people, and they were on the horn, on the phone with the CDC, getting the runaround, like, oh, we'll process it and we'll get you the finalized ID number, and never happened. Other people had their report published. They didn't know that it was published, and then it was deleted, and they didn't even know it was deleted. It's like it went through the whole cycle. It was actually published and then subsequently deleted, and they didn't even know that. And they're like, why was it deleted? So that's another part where I say that VAERS actually deletes, after publication, they delete legitimate reports, not just finding like a T-Bird's duplicate and going, oh, sorry, we should have caught it in the beginning, but we didn't. We published it. Now we're deleting it now. So that's kind of the deal that I realized, that the VAERS people, they know which reports they can mess around with, they can game, which reports have eyeballs on them from their end. They know which reports are waiting for it to be published, and them have to go back and tell the submitter what their finalized ID number is. And then what mountain of reports, nobody's asking for their ID number. So that's where I realize, like, if they're not publishing all legitimate reports received, where are all these people that should be squawking and saying, hey, where's my report? Well, React 19 has a couple dozen of them. I know another nurse Ashley in Ohio, she got fired for doing the same, for submitting like 75 VAERS reports from
Wow.
people in her hospital, and then she got fired for it. But she told me that she gave me like 9 temporary IDs, and she said, I've never gotten these. These have never been published before.
Wow.
Out of about the 80 people that she submitted for, about 9 of them had never been published. So that's another little tidbit of factoid and chain of custody that I can, I'm hoping to use this one day in court, going, hey, here's a dozen people from React 19. Here's another 9 or 10 people from this Miss Ashley. And that's just the starter kit.
Right. Well, that's incredible. So thanks for that intro. And you also worked with 2 former guests of this program, people I would love to interview again at some point. 2 people I really respect greatly and revere, actually, Dr. Jim Thorpe or James Thorpe and Dr. Kimberly Biss. Um, 2 phenomenal people, 2 OBGYNs based down in Florida who have been reporting some really disturbing trends that they've been observing in their professional work. And, I really refer to them a lot in terms of, I've done a lot of interviews. I'm proud of all of my interviews, but there's something really striking to me about talking to Dr. Kimberly Biss, talking to Dr. James Thorpe, insofar as they're very experienced professionals. They're not joking around. They're not talking about some mystical stuff. They're not talking about political stuff. They're OBGYNs. They're concerned with the health of women, for goodness sake. They're concerned with the health of babies. They're concerned with the health of pregnant women. And if these people are saying, this is something serious, we're observing really negative trends in this profession of ours where we care for these vulnerable populations of people, how is that not being taken more seriously? It's so angering and saddening at the same time. And I refer people back to my interviews on this program with Dr. Thorpe, Dr. Biss. Please share those interviews with concerned citizens. Please send those interviews to your elected officials. Please send those interviews to other journalists. Try to help me and help others who are speaking out about this. Just get the word out that, hey, people are being harmed. This needs to be looked into. It needs to be addressed. I also did a written interview with Dr. Kimberly Biss. And again, it's the word that always comes to mind. I almost overuse the word, using it a few times and talking to her on this program, is straightforward. Their report back to the public is straightforward in terms of the harms that they're observing. And again, I mean, how this could be ignored is like, it's incomprehensible to me. But if you could, please tell us about how you worked with Dr. Thorpe and Dr. Biss, and what was the nature of that project, and what did you do in that instance?
Right on. So this is actually my second paper with Dr. Thorpe, and the first one with Dr. Biss. And Jim lets me hang around. We met early on in Medical Doctors for COVID Ethics
Yeah.
Zoom space way back when, and he latched on quick to me, and I get him VAERS data, and I kind of he just jumped right in, right? He wanted to know everything about it and how it, how to maneuver in the system and query reports and all that. So this just like the first paper, where we basically measured the COVID injuries in VAERS to the flu jab injuries in VAERS. And that's the nature of the first report. And they're kind of similar, the flu jab and now the COVID jab. I mean, it's kind of like the flu jab's almost like annual, if not a biannual injection. And the cabal probably wants it like, for you to get your booster top off like every 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
But the second one was basically the same thing, but with the emphasis on um, the fertility, the female fertility and the fetal demise. So they had isolated about 50 diagnoses or 50 symptoms, unfortunately, all the different flavors of a fetal demise, the stillbirths and miscarriages, and all the other uh, the fertility issues, heavy menstrual bleeding, just the list that they had. And again, we did an analysis of the COVID versus those same symptoms against the flu jabs, and a third one against all other jabs. So it was like COVID versus flu, and then COVID versus all the other jabs, and taking the measurements of those like 50 diagnoses. And because it was VAERS and I'm the VAERS guy, I kind of got in there and made sure that we all kind of queried our own, went to the VAERS system and queried it by ourselves, and then came back and measured up our numbers together. And it's like, well, Jim, I'm getting 36 fetal demises. And then Jim says, well, I'm only getting 30. How'd you get the extra 6? And then we sharpen iron together, and I go, oh, I see what you did, Jim. You went in there and you chose, you queried the actual vax date, January 1st, 1990, just as an example, to present. I know that COVID jabs didn't start in January 1st, 1990, but you were just trying to capture everything. And this is where Jim actually learned a lesson from me for once, right? I'm always learning from him. But I said, when like 14% of all the COVID jab reports do not have a vax date. So when you do set the query, give me from this date to that date, you exclude yourself from those other 14% that have a blank vax date. So what you have to do in the VAERS system is you have to leave the dates open, and it works perfect. Like if both ends are open, no beginning date, no end date, it'll just give you everything, including those reports that do not have a vax date. So Jim actually realized, like, oh my God, all these other reports that I've been doing, I've been excluding, basically haven't been looking at 14% of all of the reports. Yeah. That's, that popped up in our first paper, if you remember. That's why my numbers were a little bit different than everybody else's, and we kind of went with my numbers. But anyways, it was like it would refresh his memory, right? He's like, oh my God. And then I told him, I said, hey, Jim, I go, another place that they like to hide, the VAERS likes to hide the injuries is in the unknown vax type. There's a whole, since the COVID era, December 14th, 2020, when the jab started to roll out, ever since then, the unknown vax type in the VAERS system has just exploded. So, basically it comes down to there's like an extra 30,000 reports in the unknown vax type. And only like half of them, they actually have a clue where you could say, yep, they left they're calling it an unknown vax type, but they left the lot number, and that lot number is unique to Moderna, or this one's unique to Pfizer. So although they didn't, they just said, I got a vaccination, the lot number is the clue that this was a COVID jab. Or they may not give the lot number. It straight up says it in the summary narrative. I got a COVID vax, or I got the Moderna, or I got Pfizer. There's about 25 Moderna deaths in the unknown vax type. It says it clearly documented, Moderna vaccine in the summary narrative. So when he figured that one out, and I showed him that, He's like, oh my God, this paper with Dr. Biss and Jim Thorpe then expanded. He wasn't expecting to get these fastballs right down there like that. Like, oh my God, we just opened it up, 14% more reports, and then a few more reports for the unknown VAX types. So that's what the last half of that paper ended up being. That last half didn't exist when he first brought me into it. But after it was done, the last half turned into like a kind of like, oh, by the way, VAERS is concealing, additional injuries as unknown VAX type and unknown VAX date and unknown VAX type. So that's what that report was, and I think we are publishing. Jim's publishing it for us in the. I'm so honored. I've never had, I've never been a published author before, and now I get this. Now I am twice with Jim. So he says I even got like a Google Scholar number or something, whatever that means. But yeah, I'm just honored. So that's what that was about.
Yeah, no, that's outstanding. I'm very excited about the work that you all have done. That's really impressive, which takes me to, and I was kind of joking with you before the show in terms of, this is like a movie where you're thrown right into the action and then retroactively you suddenly flash back in time and get some weird, backstory as to how things came to be or how this scenario came to be. But if you could take us back in time a little bit and give us your background in terms of how did you get involved in this type of work? What's your specialty that you would gravitate towards this type of work? What inspired VAERSaware.com? And, in particular, yeah, just, what's your background in all of this and what dragged you into this struggle at this time as well?
Well, my background fits perfect. It was like I've been in boot camp 25 years for a time such as this. As it turns out, my old stepdaddy, he's my old stepdaddy, but he's still a practicing physician here in San Jose, California. Dr. Albert Gomez. When it was my turn to cycle through his medical clinics right out of college, like the rest of my aunts and uncles and cousins, we would seem to, like everybody would seem to cycle through his clinics, in the front office, a nurse, the back office, or me in the billing. When it was my turn, I gravitated to the billing. I started my medical billing career in 1996, right out of college. And I thought, it's a stepping stone. I had a marketing degree. I wanted to be like a hotshot marketing person doing $1 million deals for breakfast or out by the pool. That's what I thought marketers were. So I, got into medical billing and I never left. And as kind of fate would have it, Dr. Gomez was also an INS certified physician. So that means he was basically an immigration physician, which he still is to this very day. And so there's a lot of vaccines involved in the immigration process. People are naturalizing from whatever country they came from. And if they don't come with their immigration paper, their vaccination history and papers, they have to basically start all over, so that's basically where everybody starts. They have to play catch up with all these vaccines. That's part of the immigration process. So I actually learned, I actually billed for thousands of immigration administration injections and reimbursements because, for our cash pay people too, Gomez, he had a whole refrigerator full of vaccines. And, when people needed vaccines, he would give them there in the office. He wouldn't send them to the pharmacy. Nowadays, everybody gets sent to like the pharmacy and you get your vax at the pharmacy. But back in the good old days, He had his own little mini lab off to the side. Would draw his own blood and spin it and prep it and get it out to LabCorp request. Immunizations, we had our refrigerator of immunizations. And me as a biller, I billed out for vaccines. So I was familiar with the VAERS system by name and purpose and understanding. I never had to submit a VAERS report myself because that didn't go through the billing department. So and I know that my stepdad didn't, as far as I know, he didn't have a need at that time to submit a VAERS report. So I don't know that anybody got injured, is what I'm saying, back in those days. However, that's where my anti-vax roots started. And that was before me and my turn right out of college. My mom, by the time I got there right out of college, my mom has already been his office manager for 15 years. And so she had moms coming in, the immigration process, and then get her to into the exam room. They'd already pay for their immigration physical and their vaccines. And then my mom would room the patient into the exam room. And then the mom or the wife, or usually it's a woman with the child, she would say, "Oh, please, could you not give the vaccine and just say that you did and sign my school, sign my yellow school card saying that we did. Keep the money." So it was after a couple times of that, my mom started to wonder what the heck is going on? Why is this there's a little subculture of people that kind of routinely are doing this, right? They don't want to get the jab. So it caused her to do a little research, and she, being Hispanic, and she missed the boat. I mean, it wasn't a thing. It wasn't like she's like, well, I haven't needed one before. Her personal. That's how I got skipped. And so me growing up, she signed my own card with Dr. Gomez's stamp, saying that I got the vax, but I really didn't. And so I have never been jabbed. And so I wasn't anti-vax, oh my God, I'm never going to do it. I was just I'm anti-vax because, I never got sick, and, nobody cares. And, I don't like needles anyway, so it's not a big deal, so I kind of came from that, sprouted up from that environment. And then as an adult, as a young adult, or now an aging adult, I go I don't get flu shots or nothing. I don't need that. I'm okay. So I was curious myself. 2020 was so wonky that I thought, on principle alone, I ain't gonna get this. I ain't gonna get this jab. It's 2020 is too shady, and I'm curious. Hey, I'll wait. I'll be the last in line. Let me see how good it is.
Yeah.
I was still naive. I was curious. I thought, well, maybe this is just just a big money grab, and they just want to jab everybody and make a bunch of money.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that it was possibly a depopulation agenda, or realize oh my gosh, keeping people half sick or half dead, needing to go, needing MRIs, needing lab results, needing medication. Is man, this is the oil that keeps the machine running. It's this is crazy. So that's why I gravitated to VAERS, Jeremiah, and then my billing experience. I mean, it was all the same data, database, Excel spreadsheets, data visualization. That was all my shtick already. I'm by profession, I'm a certified professional coder and a revenue cycle management expert. I've been in corporate medical for the last 20 years, managing big billing departments that were laboratory of all things. We got my lab, Hunter Labs, got purchased by a BioReference Laboratory over there in your neck of the woods out of New Jersey. So, you know, and that's a big $1 billion lab. They're the fourth largest lab in the country. And for that last year that I was there, you know, I was watching 18,000 insurance claims a day get sent to the insurance company for reimbursement. So that was LabCorp, and then, you know, they purchased our lab. My lab was doing about 2,000 claims a day to insurance companies. So a VAERS database like this with 2.6 million people or records in there is child's play. That's nothing. We get that many reports in like a month's time, and then it, you know, since it takes like a month to get reimbursed from insurance companies, you see we got, you know, our database is a lot bigger than what this VAERS system is. So I was familiar with enterprise level data visualization tools like what I'm using now, Tableau, to basically make this interactive dashboard that sits on top of the VAERS database so that you can you know, use basically an interactive dashboard. It's like a corporate level what CEOs and CFOs are using at their hospitals or you know, laboratories.
Yeah.
So I was just built for it, you know. And Jeremiah, when I was there, you know, making good money, I wasn't happy. I called myself the caged eagle. For some reason, I was just like, dude, I could do so much more. This sucks. I feel like I'm just pushing paper from one side of my desk to the other side. And I was like, I wasn't happy. And now I'm broke as a joke, but I'm at peace. It's like I got a purpose. I know why God put me in boot camp for 25 years for this battle station, because it's, you know, it's what it takes, and it comes easy. It's natural for me because I've been doing it for so long, and I just have that eagle's eye from a revenue cycle management coding expert. That's why I say that, like, you know, in this particular type of stuff, the VAERS system, I'd rather take a Microsoft full stack certified Microsoft expert, data expert, than a PhD computational biologist any day of the week. You know, you pull somebody off the bench, you know, because they got a PhD, and that, you know, that's like asking a shark to climb a tree. It's like, you ask a monkey to climb a tree, not a shark. So, you know, I hold my own in this space, and that's why I say I'm the #1 VAERS auditor as opposed to analysts, because we got superstar analysts, and I don't want to poo-poo on them or discount my team. I think of them as my team. I'm just the VAERS auditor. I'm the revenue cycle management expert. I come at it
that's an excellent clarification. We recently had Jessica Rose on this program, actually returned to this program. Jessica's become a friend, and you know, another phenomenal individual speaking out about what's going on. And a really important point, I've made this point before, but to be perfectly clear for everyone who's following the issue and anyone who might wind up sort of, you know, getting into an argument, hopefully a productive argument about any of these matters, is that we have to be perfectly clear. VAERS is an alarm system. I've said this before, but I repeat, it's an alarm system, because one thing that you come across is people, they jump into trying to discredit VAERS. Oh, well, VAERS information isn't accurate. You don't say an alarm system is accurate or inaccurate. The alarm went off, and the fire department never showed up in this case. You know, it's really crazy what's happened, but I mean, we're talking about on record 1.6 million adverse events, 38,000 deaths on record. The average American is completely unaware of this. I mean, that's 9/11 how many times over? You know, this is a I'm quite certain that it's a vast underestimate. That's sort of the gist of my last article, and I go into some of the details of how I think that's occurring. But irrespective of how much it's being overestimated or underestimated, the alarm went off, and the authorities who were supposed to be responsible for responding to that alarm system completely failed to do so. And it's something we have to keep rattling the cage until this is responded to, because it's it's sort of like, quibbling over some of the numbers, saying, "Oh no, it's overestimated, it's underestimated." I mean, it's like I said, I think it's most certainly underestimated, and I don't think there's a strong argument otherwise. And I don't think it, but again, that's not the main point. The main point is the alarm system definitely went off. It's like, does the fire department show up to a fire and then they stand outside of the fire debating about, well, we don't know if it's 3 kids in there or 4 kids. You go inside and you save the people, right? So if people could understand what's going on with this, there's just this one point, it might open people's eyes considerably. Unfortunately, there's so many people there, hate to use the phrase, but stuck on stupid. There's so many people who are being blinded either willfully or unwittingly. But if we just took time, sort of similar to the point I was making about the findings of Dr. Biss and Dr. Thorpe, similar with this, if you simply take the time to look at the facts pertaining to VAERS, the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System, you would realize, well, this is a serious problem. This is something that really should have been responded to. But part of the problem is that they created this atmosphere of going 1,000 miles in one particular direction and not considering what's happening. Like, once you're fully committed to a project, are you going to stop and start second guessing yourself? No, they were just full speed ahead about this. They were on television, on every station, safe and effective, safe and effective. So once that force is set in motion, it's very hard to be thoughtful and objective, I would say, about what you've done.
Jeremiah, so I did like what you said about, this is a pharmacovigilance early warning detection system, right? And I know that when you present this stuff to like the pro-vaccine side, they'll go right to like, well, how do you know this one report here? How do you know the vaccine caused this? The person got vaxxed yesterday and then died today. But how do you know that that vaccine caused that death? And you get right into quickly brought right into the weeds, and it's like, wait, that's not, it's an early warning detection system. You got to kind of look at it in its whole, its entirety. But here's the point. This is where, we all have our lanes, and this is where my lane is that I noticed from like an auditor. I go into the system expecting that every report's a fraud. It's like because I'm an auditor, right? I'm looking for fraud. And, one of the couple things quickly is that 30% of all of the COVID jab reports, 1.6 million, 30% of the reports do not have an age populated in the age field. So therefore, you don't know how old the person is in the metadata summary. But when you read the actual summary of each report, you see that all these 30%, that's almost 500,000 reports. You see in the summary that the age is clearly documented right there. It says this is a 14-year-old, this is a 13-year-old, this is a 75-year-old. It's just that the age field is unpopulated. It's empty. It's blank. So what this means in my VAERS system is I ethically populate, go through, dynamically read, Python algorithms, got a little system going, populate the age field with, when it's missing, where applicable. And now I've found over like 365,000 reports where I'm able to then ethically plug in the age field in my dashboard. So you get that more, much better, more clear visibility. What this boils down to is that there's not 197 dead kids in the system like any simpleton would get if you go and query the VAERS system. Show me how many dead kids from age 0 to 17 years old. You'll get 197 today. There's 538 dead kids in the system.
Wow.
So, you know, that's one point. The other point is that especially early on, they bundled deaths onto one report. So it was like a skilled nursing facility or a hospital of some sort, or even a couple times in Pennsylvania as a couple a jail because they referred to them as inmates, but they put like multiple deaths on one report, and they would say something like a lot of them would say this was 13 deaths or 23 deaths or 36 deaths. This is 1 of 36. This is 2 of 36, 3 of 30. When I try to go find the whole pack, they're missing. I could only find, you know, half of them. So there was groups like that where I couldn't find the complete set of reports, and then other ones that just said this is 13 deaths, and you know, there was not another 13 deaths. You know, the 12 other deaths, I couldn't find them at all. At least on some of these groups, they did the courtesy of saying this is 1 of 13 or 2 of 13 or 3 of 13, like that. So what I'm saying is that if we could ethically unbundle all the bundled deaths that are in there, we'd have probably an extra 2,000 dead people just for the bundle alone.
Right.
So the missing ages. Oh, the state location, where in the continental United States. Right off the bat, excluding death reports, 16% of all the COVID jab reports do not have the state. They can't tell us what state in the United States it came from. Now, mind you, just 2024, IP addresses, area codes, zip codes, fax numbers, you know, they can't go back and figure out where this report came from in 2024. I mean, give me a break. You know, it's not a courier pigeon flying to your window and dropping off the report. But when you get to the death reports for the continental United States, the reports that should be scrutinized the most, at least that's what they say in their standard operating procedures. We heavily scrutinize the highest level severe event, you know. Well, guess what? It's double the amount of unknown states. 32% of all the domestic deaths in the United States for COVID jabs, 32% have an unknown state. Give me a break, Jeremiah. They are straight up right there. That little factoid right there is telling me that they are straight up stripping the state. Like the state was there on, I can't prove it, but those are the numbers. How can it be double for the death reports, double unknown state? So I think that they really strip out the state like it was there on submission, and then in the adjudication process, poof, it disappeared. It got scrubbed out somehow and then got published.
Wow,
that's what I'm saying. Just like I think that they do that for selectively with the ages, especially the dead kids, or the injured kids. Generally speaking, it's like by proportionate ratio, it's like, man, are they trying to hide the dead? Are they trying to hide the dead and injured kids?
Right.
It feels that way to me. This auditor.
One of the most insane things about all of this, which I point out in my article, is the fact that medical professionals have not been trained about VAERS whatsoever. I mean, you literally have doctors, you have nurses who are administering these shots, and they don't know what VAERS is. You would say, well, if I get injured, should I file a VAERS report? They'll be like, what's that?
Yeah.
You literally, and then bear in mind, that's also then still a step removed from being aware of the system and being trained in using it. So really every medical, I mean, I wish if people could just understand and appreciate how important just these subtle things, but very telling things are in terms of you're in this mass campaign to inoculate the public. They were in a race to say, oh, we want to lower the age of inoculation. First, they had to have authorization for a 12-year-old to be inoculated. They were like, yay, it's authorized. Your 12-year-old can have a COVID shot. Then a few months later, or not much later, now you can give a shot to a 6-month-old. Right? So we're talking about an experimental injection that will affect this person's formative development, and God knows how. They were so anxious. I mean, it's so unbelievable. I've brought it up before, but yeah, I'll bring it up again. They injected zoo animals, guys. I'm not making this up. Look at the Substack of Mark Crispin Miller. Other people have covered it. They've injected zoo animals, some of whom have died suddenly. I don't know. I mean, what were they thinking when they injected a giraffe with a COVID quote unquote vaccine for people? I mean, that's how insane this whole thing was. But in light of this mass campaign, there is something called the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System. If someone is injured by an injection, they're supposed to report to that system. How is it that the medical professionals who are injecting people with this stuff, who are responsible for this stuff, many of them are not even aware of what VAERS is? Because again, it's like a commercial atmosphere. It's not an atmosphere of the well-being of people and really trying to medically be responsible. You know, it's a commercial thing. Just like if you're promoting the Super Bowl, you don't say to people, "Hey, don't watch the Super Bowl. Go and read a book." you know, it's like
Yep.
it was a commercial onslaught, and it was very much carried out with a sort of a commercial mindset. But we're approaching the end of the program. We have a little bit of time, but I want to really make sure that you tell the audience, how can people follow you on Twitter? First of all, you have a great Twitter page that people can
Thanks.
follow, and there's great information flowing through there. And then also, please tell us about your Substack, and please tell us about VAERSaware.com. Tell us about all the things that we should be following and all the places where we can keep up with what you're doing. Take your
Right
time.
on. Well, my main launching pad is the VAERSaware.com website. So simply VAERSaware.com. From there, you can get to my Twitter handle, but that's Welcome the Eagle, all one word. Welcome the Eagle. On BitChute, same thing. Welcome the Eagle 88. But if you just type in Welcome the Eagle, if you go anywhere on BitChute and type in VAERS, any video that has VAERS in the title, all my stuff pops up. Same thing with Rumble. I have a Rumble channel. I have a Telegram channel. Just anywhere you're at, you just Google, or don't use Google, DuckDuckGo or Brave or something, your search engine, and search Welcome the Eagle, all one word. You'll find me. My Twitter, my all my different handles, but my main hangout spots are Twitter and Rumble for my videos, and of course Substack. So Substack's the same thing. Welcome the Eagle, Substack.com, whatever it is. Just and then again, when you're in Substack, just type in the word VAERS, and I usually, I try to put VAERS in all the titles of all my Substack articles, so I pop up anywhere. I'm even a footnote in Wikipedia for VAERS as like a misinformation specialist in the footnotes of the
Right.
VAERS.
Misinformation, aka the information they don't want you to know.
Right. And I'm just reporting what's in the VAERS system. And one of my objectives, Jeremiah, was just that, like I said before, is I want people to play with the VAERS system on their cell phone. I want kids to play with VAERS like they play with video games.
Right.
And people will go like, "Huh? What does that mean?" And in my mind, that's what I'm envisioning. It's like an interactive dashboard. And I get people that say, oh, that's not my thing. That's not my, it's not. I go, dude, everybody has a uses an interactive dashboard every day and you don't even know about it. It's called your cell phone.
Of
That's an
course.
interactive dashboard. So, and that goes to the full informed consent, if for people that are on the fence, should I get my next booster? Should I get my next flu shot? Whatever. It's like, in my mind, here's VAERSaware.com. Go read some reports, you know, check it out and, see what, get the full picture before you make that a very, very important decision as to get your next booster.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing is so troubling to me. As I've said, when people were told, oh, well, there could be side effects, I don't think the average person at all had it in mind that you would have severe neurological disorders, for instance. You know, a lot of people, if you say, oh, someone was afflicted by cancer suddenly, and a person might say, oh, that might be vaccine related. A lot of people might react and say, oh, that's ridiculous. You're an anti-vaxxer. No, you don't understand. Oncologists have talked about it. There's peer-reviewed papers about it now, about these shots deregulating the immune system. And that's one thing that's so troubling is like some of the people who were aware of mRNA and the dangers of it and were trying to speak out and they were getting censored, they were getting discredited, character assassinated. It's like when someone says that a product has the potential of deregulating your immune system, you should take that a little bit more seriously, maybe. It's one thing if they say, oh, aliens are going to come down from outer space. Hey, they didn't say something crazy. They said something that you should consider, because if that is correct, then we have what's called a disaster on our hands and a disaster of public health. So, everyone, we only have a couple minutes here, and I just want to say, please, I mean, I don't want to beg. I want to, in a dignified manner, ask you guys, please support the medical freedom movement in any way that you find possible. Please support this program, The Baseline. I'm asking you kindly for your support. Please support my Substack. Look up Jeremiah Hosea on Substack. Please follow Welcome the Eagle on all those various platforms. It just help spread the word, figure out strategies. There's so many things you could do. Print something out, an old school printer. Go get old school photocopies and leave flyers around the neighborhood. Text message your friends, open up forums, invite us to speak, whatever you can do, whatever way that you can collaborate, you can support, be a paid subscriber to my Substack, paid subscriber to any number of medical freedom Substacks, for example. Say, hey, there's a new era of information. We're turning off legacy media, and now I make just a $5 donation over here, $5 donation over there, and it really is a good feeling to say, hey, look, I'm supporting this line of information. It's a new era of information, and we really have to educate each other, and we have to figure out better ways of supporting each other. Not to say that we're not supporting each other, but a big part of the whole thing to me is how can we amplify each other's voices more? Because, the truth is getting out little by little, but let's expedite that process. That's what I'd really like to ask this audience, expedite that process. This is the 50th week in a row of this program. This is episode 50. I haven't missed a week. There have been great guests coming through on a weekly basis to talk about this urgent material. And I ask you, share this with people, because that's why these interviews are being done, is for the education of the public. It's not just for a little niche group to discuss this, or this minority of people to take interest in. It's for the vast public to start getting engaged in